And then I traced this through time, through the era in America when cities grew and the food system industrialized, and we came to need to learn a new way of thinking about our foods. It was kind of interesting because just about the time that the food system industrialized and it became unappetizing to know about how foods were actually made, that's exactly the time that the advertising industry kind of came into being and really cut its teeth helping to ease Americans into new and more appealing and appetizing ways to know about our foods. You know, the task of feeding huge urban populations drove a lot of innovation and technological transformations in how our foods could be produced. You know, so there was mechanization of foods. Like in my book I talk about the history of canned foods, but then farther along there's all sorts of food chemistry and food science that is able to transform things like the lowly soybean and into all sorts of other additives and, you know, different types of foods that we wouldn't even imagine. So that's one way, you know, one kind of trend that's happened with our foods. In my book I don't really focus on kind of the technology per se. I was much more interested in people's responses to the technology. And early on I was really surprised to find that people were very skeptical of new foods when they came out. You know, nowadays we think about cans as being incredibly familiar. I mean, we just don't even think about a can as a technology, you know. But back when they were new, people were really skeptical of them. And if you think about it, for perspective, before cans, foods were leafy and green and fleshy and earthy. You know, you could really see them and smell them and use your senses to evaluate them. But cans concealed the foods in their shiny armor and made it difficult to know what you were getting.
Well, I need some peas, 3 cans of peas. There's your candy.
And so, and in fact, when cans were new, there were lots of problems with them. One person found the whole head of a rooster in a can. As Americans, we had to learn to use this new technology and to appreciate it, and that's where advertising comes in. At the outset, advertising and basic promotion told people what they always expected to know about their foods, where they came from and how they were grown. But as if you look at advertising through time, you can see how it starts to migrate towards more sentimental or different realms. You know, how is a product going to make me feel when I consume it, things like that. So that's something I learned that was really interesting.
Baby, very happy.
By the time of the 1920s or 30s, let's say, people became very familiar with picking foods by brand name and price. Those became the ways people understood, or the primary criteria people used to pick foods. And, you know, fast forward ahead to now, the 1990s, the early 2000s, and I think we're seeing this amazing groundswell of interest right now in local foods, in organic foods. And I think it's because people are increasingly concerned about what's in their food, how food production affects the environment. And so we're now starting to learn a new kitchen literacy where people are realizing that what we eat is connected to real people and real places and the well-being of the environment. And they're trying to make connections, trying to integrate, trying to see how their own eating is linked to all these things.
Is that a difficult transition for people to make?
I think it can be for some people. I don't think it has to be. I think the whole food system is set up, the whole infrastructure of the food system is set up in a way that makes shopping in a supermarket the easiest thing. You know, the roads on the way to work and home past the supermarket. Supermarkets are cheap, everything's always in the same place. We get used to buying the same brands that we've always purchased. We are used to paying what we pay. It's just the whole thing is set up so that we do it kind of on autopilot. You know, many people don't even think about what they're doing very much. It's just the way we've all grown up doing it. And so to bring in some of these new ways of shopping, let's say going to shop at a farmer's market, is a totally different experience. You have to go one Saturday morning or Sunday morning, whatever, and you have to, you know, search around and find different kinds of foods, maybe things you're unfamiliar with, and then you have to figure out how to cook them. So for some people that may seem like a challenge, but for other people they find it to be a really satisfying and interesting adventure. And I found it to be really fun myself.
Ciao.
But in fact, it's not a new way at all, is it?
Right, no. It isn't a new way, you're right, if we think about history in a circular way, but it's a way that we haven't been shopping for a long time. There's some figure about the number of farmers markets in America in 1985, and it's just a very small number. But in the past 25 years, this number has skyrocketed to thousands of farmers markets because people really find it enjoyable and interesting and rewarding to shop in this way. But the whole infrastructure of the food system has really been designed to supply supermarkets for so long. I mean, that's been the dominant norm.